I want to say Paul McCartney called us Slipknot. I like to know exactly what shit sounds like.
Welcome to the Thunder Rooster podcast. We are back for another joyous, long bit of topic.
It's going to be a real long one. You better put the coffee on.
I know. We had a really good time doing our last episode. It was a little bit of it was kind of hard. I'm not going to lie. I had some issues with it. But while we're here, I'm Ron.
And I'm Paul.
And today we're actually joined by my lovely wife, Jessica.
Hello.
Woo! Jessica isn't quite mic'd up, but we'll make sure she's audible in the post-production of this. But let's explain why you're here with us today, Jess.
So, I don't know if your viewers know, but we all work together.
Yeah.
And I walked in, quite literally, to a funny, interestingly staged room at work, and I found it hilarious.
All right,
Ron found it hilarious, and I think Paul will find it hilarious. So I'm going to see if your mind goes to the same place mine does.
Let's do it.
All right, here it is. What does that look like to you?
Looks like a couch in the bathroom.
Look closer. What's on the table?
I mean, this is so far away. I'm kind of old in my vision, but it looks like cleaning supplies.
It looks like we've got a box of Kleenex next to some air freshener, of course.
Uh-huh.
But we also have a big-ass bottle of lotion.
So, Paul, I don't know if this looks familiar, but isn't this the women's restroom you got yelled at for going into? I know it looks a little bit different because it looks different from when I used it to pump back in March. This is the first time I used it.
I don't recall that. I don't know.
Oh
yeah, that wasn't there in March, so...
Let's not neglect the whole little thing of mints on the second shelf as, I guess, a reward for everyone.
When I saw that, the first thing that came to mind was I Love You Man.
Yeah.
The garage
Yes,
with the couch
yes.
and...
Very true. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Dude, you got a jerk-off booth. Oh, man.
I said it looks like a masturbation station.
Pretty much. I think it was kind of going there. I mean, we have these...
This celebration station, huh? All right.
Wow, well, that was quite a surprise. Very good. Didn't know that existed, but now we know.
Now we know. Oh, my gosh.
Neither did I.
Yeah, I mean, completely. Wow.
And if you guys are wondering why we find it so funny, it's because there are a lot of guys who use that women's only restroom.
Yeah.
Like,
there have
a
been
lot.
complaints.
I think only Paul got yelled at for it, though.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Every guy there in the upper management will tell you, no, it's fine. Go ahead. And you'll see the president even will go in there and use it. But yeah.
But the minute I do, well, you're in trouble now, Paul. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing. That's I'm very enlightened at this point.
All right. Well, some news that we have. It's actually probably up by now because we have a little bit of a delay on getting these out. But we actually have our site up, thunderrooster.com. I'm sure we've had links in all of our videos by now. But also, you can hit us up on Instagram at Thunder Rooster Podcast. And if you want any kind of beforehand kind of news toward what we're doing or maybe some behind-the-scenes stuff, check us out there. Make sure you follow us. And if you're on YouTube watching this, make sure you subscribe if you like it. And just let people know about us. That way we can grow and develop a little community for our little thing or our own niche we're creating. But yeah. Oh, of course, if you're listening to this podcast on Apple Apple Podcasts, I guess
Sure.
it's called now.
Yeah.
So
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
yeah, if you like what you're listening to, please give us a review. 5 stars would be appreciated, but we want to earn it. We don't just want 5 stars just for the sake of 5 stars, but anything helps. So just definitely, if you don't mind taking the time.
And again, we need to get 1,000 subscribers or 1,000 views, and then my ass gets scared.
Yes, we're gonna take his
In
ass
Mansfield-
straight to Mansfield
Mansfield,
Reformatory. Relive his darkest night.
Ghost terror. Can't wait.
All right.
Come.
Well, today's episode is going to be Slipknot.
Maggots.
I love this band so much. It's such a huge inspiration to me and the music I do, and I have been listening to them ever since I was challenged to play drums on this on their first album. And something I think is really cool, our last episode we did was over Tropic Thunder. If you haven't checked it out, please do. But on that episode, we had a nice little coincidence of it being the anniversary of when it opened up on that day. And here we are again. It is August 28th.
Literally in pre-production. We're just looking, and I go, "Hey, Ron, you know what today is?" You said no. I said, I didn't know. 19 years today.
19 years today, Iowa was
Iowa
released.
came out. Wow.
As a matter of fact, this is the Iowa era mask that Corey wore.
Is this Mick Iowa, his Iowa mask? Or is this
No, I
just
think that's a newer one. I think that's probably from the latest album.
Oh, okay.
If not, it probably came out around the Gray Chapter.
Okay.
Either way, we have the Mick Thompson mask over here with Paul. I'm rocking the Corey Taylor. But this band's really, really great. I love them.
And they've influenced a numerous amount of bands now.
So many.
You know, just like as we talked about Metallica before, that was a band that showcased and brought other people to the forefront to love this music, and this band in itself is a testament to their love of Metallica too, and there are two
Right.
favorite bands, so it wouldn't be anything less to do it.
Right. And I want to mention that today we're just going to go up to volume 3.
Yeah,
on the
we
album.
can't cover this mega band.
We're going to do basically what we did with Metallica. You know, we're going to end up having a second part to this later on. But we just want to give it respect. We want to make sure we're doing it the right way. And I know there's a load of trials and tribulations and highlights with the band after volume 3. And we just want to give it the respect it deserves and have its own little part.
And within that, it's, you know, that element. I mean, we can relate. I think a lot of people can relate to the struggles that each of these individuals have faced either here or there in life.
Right.
And that's what brings us together. Music. It's what connects us.
Right. And a lot of people will see this band as like almost like an overnight success. And that is not the case.
No.
Not one bit. This band really went through a long period of just trying to evolve and grow into what it's become today. And it all started back. We're not going to try and to roll too much into this, but so we're going to take it back to 95, where it started out with Sean Clown Crayon and Paul Gray. They actually got a group together. It was them two and Danny Steele on guitar. I also mentioned they had Sean was playing drums, and Paul Gray obviously was playing bass. Danny Steele on the guitar, and they had their first singer was a guy named Anders Kolsefni, I'm sorry.
Kosefni.
Right? Kolsefni?
Kosefni.
But yeah, so that was the first kind of thing they were getting together. It was called the Pale Ones. Excuse me. And, there was so many bands before that each member kind of had their little toes dipped into, And I can kind of relate to that because, they come from Des Moines, Iowa. It's a small little little community, basically. I wouldn't say it's like a major
Have you
city.
been to Iowa?
I have.
And you know, I have too. I mean, what parts have you been to?
I was actually in Des Moines a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, me and my wife actually we were on a road trip out to Arizona, and we actually stayed in Des Moines.
Yeah, I've driven by there. Went to Field of Dreams in Dyersville, I think it is, and
I want to do
saw a lot
that.
of corn. So that was as much as I saw in Iowa. So I guess I can understand what they're saying.
But yeah, I can get the whole, kind of, incestuous thing with bands, because back in the day, I grew up in a really small town in Oklahoma, and my early days of playing and jamming with bands, the only options I had were little punk bands. I was into metal, and I was playing Slipknot on the drums, in the early 2000s, and the only real options I had were playing, Green Day and Blink 182 songs, So I completely get the whole, just trying to mix match with whatever you can.
Right.
So we had these guys, and, Anders was the vocalist, and they had Donnie Steele, guitar, Paul Gray, bass, Sean was the drummer, and they wanted to add some more percussion to the band, so they invited Joey Jordanson over, and he had played with a band called Modifidius, and that was kind of a decently known band around the area, but they brought him in, and subsequently ended up making him the main drummer, obviously, because he's a badass. So they ended up moving Clown on over to percussion, and the singer Anders Kilsetny, he ended up doing percussion as well. And so from that point, they ended up calling themselves the Pale Ones, but they ended up doing their first show under the name Meld. So we have this name, Pale Ones, and already right before they play their first show, they changed the band name again.
Just make it more confusing. It's all right.
And I want to say, the 6-member crew ended up playing their first show on December 4th of 95. And I believe Corey Taylor was at that show. And he said that he was going to be the singer of that band.
Safari Club, right?
Oh, no, I'm ahead of myself on that one, actually.
Uh-oh.
They had actually named their band Slipknot by the time.
Yes.
So it would have been the rendition of Slipknot.
Right.
My bad.
That's okay. Hey, that's all right. Right. It was 95, I think.
Yeah.
November 6th, I think. 95. It's the first show with Corey.
I think that was 96. Yeah. Okay, so in the early development of the band, Sean and Paul and Joey would all congregate around Joey's job at a Sinclair gas station.
Exciting. And
they would literally just get together and just plot, their plans for the band and what they wanted to do with their music, and that's a lot of where the master plan really comes together for the band.
Right.
I wonder, if you could get any kind of transcripts or anything of that nature from all the conversations they'd have over that. How interesting.
I'm sure someone out there probably heard or saw something.
Yeah,
they could share with. But yeah, I mean, imagine.
I would love there to be some kind of like book or something just to kind of delve into that. But yeah. So they all get together, and they ended up changing their name to Slipknot, because it was actually a title of one of their songs, and Joey had mentioned changing the name to Slipknot, because I believe Meld was also a name of a song that they had on their first name. But moving along, they end up getting together and recording at SR Studios in Des Moines. And they spent $40,000 making this demo.
It's a lot of money.
I can't even fathom that.
I mean, just considering that probably it took a lot of time to get everything
Right.
together. Probably a lot of work. They probably didn't make a lot of money what they were doing at their jobs, and they were probably just fuck it, and they want to live their dream.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
they work tirelessly.
Interesting enough. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, Sean Cran is the godfather of Slipknot. He's really. If you look at it now, he is literally the only member in the band today that has been there from day one.
And he's a clown.
He's the clown. Yeah, exactly. The mastermind is the clown.
Clowns.
He really put it in there. And honestly, the reason why he went so hard on it, he had some very interesting life-altering things happen to him. He was a welder. He worked overnights. And on the way home one day, he falls asleep at the wheel and has an accident. That on top of some other news that his wife gave him over a death of a family member, that made his mind up that he just wanted to do what he wanted with his life because life's too short, And I don't know if this is 100% true, and it might be just rumor or speculation, but I believe he owned a bar at some point and sold the bar to get that $40,000. Which that would make sense of how you would get $40,000 to make an album,
Or get it some other way.
Right.
But yeah.
But, the album they only ended up making, 1,000 copies. Which, the rarity of that in itself, if you try and get a physical copy of Make, Kill, Feed, Repeat, it's
luck, right?
thousands of dollars.
Good luck.
Like, I remember seeing one on eBay once, and it was so expensive. It's crazy expensive. But that's understandable. It's a rare item, But, yeah, it didn't have the success that it wanted to. It got some local airplay and, around Des Moines, but nothing that they had in mind for. So the band ended up getting together and going back into the studio to record a demo specifically for record labels because they did not get any attention whatsoever.
No, not whatsoever.
Off of this album.
Nope.
But yeah, so you want to take on over from here?
Yeah, basically what I kind of want to, what I kind of have been fascinated with along the lines of research and what I've kind of seen here and there, but I was really taken back as to the reasons about the band as far as their masks, their outfits.
Yeah.
And there's a quote that I took that came from Sean, and he says, we wear masks because we are nobody and we are just nameless entities. And
Right.
I was just like, shit, that's deep.
Yeah.
Meaning like just overall, we're just a number. We're just, we're here, we're gone, nothing out of the ordinary. Same with the uniforms. The idea of the barcode and a number to symbolize that. That just blew me away. I never knew that.
Yeah, to find out that barcode was just a big middle finger to the music industry because they hated it.
Yeah.
They hated
completely.
how it turned out that, and it's such a mastermind thing. And it just goes to show you there is nothing in this band that is not planned out. From what they wear, what they play, the mask, the art, everything is done to a T.
Yes, it is just right to the T. Yeah.
Right.
I could not believe that, and then just seeing that. And then you have different, different eras, different masks. It just goes on and on and on. But just the idea, for them, without these masks on, they're just like everyone else. But when they have them on, they feel that they have a purpose. They can channel what they want and what they need.
Right.
And that was just, I never really realized that until I saw that.
Right.
So it's deep.
Let's talk about the mask for a minute, okay? We wanted to do this specifically for the show, obviously. It's a homage to Slipknot.
Should have planned a little bit different, though.
I have the utmost respect for these dudes because, you know, as I was preparing for this, I put this mask on and I sat down for a minute and started testing my levels because I wanted to see how well I could actually be heard on the mic in this mask.
Right.
And by the time I was done, sitting down right here for maybe 5 minutes. I took the mask off and already I had sweat. I didn't move or do any activity. So imagine these guys are fucking tearing ass up on a stage in jumpsuits with these masks on, full activity.
3-hour sets, probably. Yeah.
Well, now maybe. Even so, I mean, back in the day, their first tour was Ozfest in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine? All right, we'll get more into that later. But so when they're getting this this new demo that they're making, they decided they wanted a more melodic sound with vocals. They felt that they were missing that. So they ended up plucking a lead singer from a local band called Stone Sour. Now, I don't know about you, but I was a little surprised to find out that Stone Sour existed before Slipknot.
I did not know at all. I could have sworn I was like, that's just... I had no idea it was like 92, 95 era around there. I could not believe it. And then they come out with their album note too.
Yeah, and so
crazy.
It actually, when they changed the name to Slipknot and made their first show, Corey Taylor was at that show, and he says, quote, I'm going to be the vocalist for this band.
It's just so ironic how that happens.
Right. It is crazy. And I'm really glad it happened that way.
I think we agree.
It's a cute little story that I remember reading or watching, you know, Corey Taylor worked at a porno shop in Des Moines, working the night shift, and he tells the story like, you know, I believe it was Sean and Paul and Joey, and they come into the store like they're going to buy stuff. They're just kind of quietly waiting around the corner, waiting to make their move to Taylor. You know, it's like, hey, we really like you to be in our band. You know, I'm sure if you hear it from Clown, it'd be completely different. But the way Corey told it was just like, you know, they're all coy and shy. Like, hey, would you like to join our band? We'd really like you. Your vocals are good.
He's like, hey, hang on 1 second. I'm going to go put my dildos away. Thanks.
Right. Hold on. Let me put these dildos up. I just counted all of them. They're there. All right. So enter Corey Taylor. All right. So their singer that they had, Anders Kolsefny, he stays in the band just doing percussion. Okay. And he actually announces on stage on a show that he was quitting the band. So he leaves the band. They pull in another guy. I believe his name was Greg Welts. And he plays the drums or plays percussion for a little while. I want to make sure I have that right. There's a lot of members that go through this time. So I'm going to try my best. Okay, so yeah. He was the guy who was affectionately called Cuddles. But we actually need to take a break. We'll be right back with more Slipknot.
Huge advocate of masturbating. I find my urge to kill dwindles after a good nut.
Back to do the Subliminal Verses album with Slipknot. So,
Shut up!
Shut up! Fuck you!
And we're back. Hopefully I showed a nice little clip there to hold us over.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I forgot to mention earlier when they moved Craig to the samples, you know, he was originally playing the guitar.
Right. Yep.
And obviously need a guitarist to fill in the void there, so they brought in Mick Thompson.
You forgot me.
Yeah, I forgot you.
Been sitting here all day.
Sorry, you know, I was twirling my little dreads here. But anyway, so Mick Thompson and Josh Brainerd are the guitarists during this part. And they go into the studio to do their demo. And so they ended up replacing their percussionist who left, Cuddles.
Cuddles.
And they ended up getting another guy named Brandon Darner. And he ended up being in the band for maybe, I don't know, probably a month. It was very shortly after he got in the band, he left.
Sayonara.
So at this point, you know, I mean, right before that happened, you know, they ended up getting some attention from record labels off of this new demo that they made. Okay. And they ended up having Ross Robinson offer to produce the album just based off of a couple rehearsals that he set in, you know. And it was during this time that they ended up recruiting DJ Sid Wilson into the band as the 9th member. And mainly what that boiled down to is, you know, they liked what he was doing on the DJ side of things, but they also just, he was a cool guy, you know, basically. So they ended up bringing him in, you know, and it was around this time that they ended up getting offered a record deal with Roadrunner Records. And it was a $500,000 signing for a 7-album contract.
That doesn't sound that good.
It really doesn't.
No,
I mean, I'm
not
sure.
This point now. No.
I'm sure there's been some negotiations done since then, considering they just put out their 6th album.
That's crazy.
You know, a good over 20 years later. So hopefully some stuff was done there.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, so Cuddles was actually fired from the band, and they brought in Brandon Darner, but he got out shortly after. So the band is on their way to record their debut album in Malibu, California, and they just happened to get Chris Fane to cover the percussion role, Mr. Pinocchio himself, the long nose. Enter that clip there. So they traveled to Malibu, California, work on that album, and partway through the recording of that album, the band returned to Des Moines, Iowa for the Christmas break. And it was during this period that Josh Brainerd decides to leave the band. He just did not like the direction that some of the decision making was being done. And he just up and left. So they end up recruiting Mr. Jim Root, who had actually played for a really big band in the area called Atomic Opera. And also, notably, he played with Stone Sour with Mr. Corey Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've watched the Sound in the Story for Jim Root, and he has a very detailed little thing about, you know, Corey basically asking him to come along. And actually, when Corey told him he was leaving Stone Sour to go to Slipknot,
we were all extremely pissed, and I wanted to slit his throat in his sleep. I fucking crept into their bedroom. It was the same room that we rehearsed in. And laid down on the bed, and I was like, "Hey, dickhead, wake up." He's like,
I mean, how many members have been just in and out just in this short little period of time? This is all
revolving door.
This is all within a year. I mean, not even a full year, I don't think.
That's not a good sign.
No.
Not a good sign for things to come.
So, you know, they put out this album, and right after the album gets released, they end up going on their first tour, and that's Ozfest. Ozfest 99.
But you gotta let them know, too, but how big that was. I mean, 10 countries, they were topping the charts, 100 chart positions, 10 countries.
Oh, yeah.
Just off the beginning of that.
Right. From doing the Ozfest and having that major audience, you know, by the 2000s, that album was certified platinum.
Yeah.
That is crazy. I mean, you have to think about the buzz gets generated, because at the time, I mean, who was wearing masks? Who was out there playing heavy metal music, causing a ruckus, wearing masks and stuff then? I mean, I know Guar was doing stuff like that then, but not on this scale.
No,
you know?
I can't imagine that. I mean,
I mean, really, before the stage antics and the whole art side of things like that, you had Kiss wearing makeup
Right.
and stuff, and Alice Cooper had his thing, but I mean, the band really stuck out like a sore thumb, and they really rode that. And the band, I mean, a band full of 9 guys shoved in a metal tube, going to all these places. They literally had a shit writer. They'd maybe get a 30-pack of beer to split between all of them. There are stories of the guys at the band literally grabbing what beer they could and hiding it in their bunk so they'd have some for later. I mean, these guys are
Sounds
eating...
like college.
Right. Yeah. These guys were eating shit sandwiches for this entire time. I mean, I don't know what kind of per diem deal they might have had, or if they had one at all. These guys were just pouring their souls into these shows and getting this art out. I mean, blood, sweat, and tears. These guys were lighting each other on fire on stage every night. Injuries were had. So many emergency room visits just on this tour.
Yeah, I could only imagine.
But, I mean, I love that first album. That was the first time I had ever heard Slipknot. And it was actually, I was in high school. And I had been playing drums for maybe about a year. And a buddy of mine, he said, "Hey, I bet you can't play this." And he challenged me to learn the whole thing on drums.
The whole album?
The whole album.
Oh.
And I was like, "What do you got?" He slides it over to me. And of course, we had CDs back then. So I had my
Still have them.
My little Walkman I had with me, I carried around. I popped it in. And, at the time, I just started really having my own first real, getting into music for myself for the first time. Because before then, I was just listening to whatever my sister and mom listened to in the car. You know what I mean?
Sure. Understandable.
So I was really into like Korn and Limp Bizkit at this time. Limp Bizkit. But I listened to this album and I'm like, I can't even understand a word these guys are saying. What is this? And just for that reaction, I laugh at it so much now because I listen to stuff that, I appreciate stuff that you don't even understand. It sounds like you're taking 2 cinder blocks and just rubbing them together sometimes.
I mean, that's a good analogy.
Right. But,
It's not pretty.
I fell in love with it, man. I mean, it's such a tribal drum beat through the whole thing, and that has a lot to attribute for the percussionists in the band too. I mean, the drums are fast, they're visceral, they're
absolutely technical, just
so technical.
Yes.
And I really just fell in love with it. And man, let me tell you, I cut my teeth on that first album. My playing, I mean, I'll tell you what, my calves are probably as big as they are now because of that album. Just constantly on that double bass. I loved every minute of it. But yeah, they ended up getting some airplay on this album with Wait and Bleed.
Love that song.
Which was their really big hit. I mean, off that album. That was their single. It carried them everywhere. Other songs on that were really notable, obviously, Spit It Out, Surfacing, the new national fucking anthem that'll be the closer for God knows how many years after that.
Yep.
But, I mean, Sick, such a great song. But, so, the band goes quickly right into the recording the next album. And that next album will completely turn the world upside down. So we are going into Iowa, which was released 19 years ago today. All right, so what do you got on the Iowa? Do you know where they recorded at?
What's that?
Do you know where they recorded at?
Iowa.
Yeah. Oh, in Iowa.
Circle gets a square. I trumped you.
No, they recorded it in LA at Sound City and Sound Image Studios. Ross Robinson returns. I may have forgotten to mention that. No, I did mention that he recorded the first or produced the first. He comes again, and he recorded Korn's first couple of records, and something very notable about that was he has this reputation of really like getting everything he can out of you, yelling at you, throwing things at you.
Whatever works.
Even Slipknot has stories. I know Jim Root was saying, he'd just gotten this custom Jackson guitar made, and he's trying to track something, and Ross just goes up and kicks the shit out of his hand.
I want it to be on fire.
Working with Ross was intense as shit. We did 12 songs the first night we were there, and the whole time he is throwing potted plants at us.
I grabbed one of the candles and I threw it against the wall as hard as I can. Wax went across his face and he's like, screaming into the floor. It was so good.
But, I mean, he really got Corey Taylor to really push the limits. I know you got some info on that.
One of the things that I know Ron knows all this, but as I'm looking into things, just trying to be, learning an instrument, kind of feeling like I'm a part of a community, a musician, but then just to know, like, his voice is so unique in the music industry as it is. I mean, I put him up there with Chris Cornell. I put him up there with Dave Draymond. I put him up there with the best because he's so versatile. But to know that for someone like him, and then to learn about what he went through in his life, to know that he actually inflicted pain on himself, and I've never heard anyone to do this, especially in a studio setting. Cutting, vomits. I mean, I can't even fathom. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, as far as he wanted to feel something real, okay, but I mean,
it's definitely
that blew
extremes.
my mind. Never. I don't think I've ever heard anything as crazy as that.
No, it's definitely some major extremes there.
Yeah.
And I believe it was Left Behind where he just wanted to get down to the very core of himself to do this, and he actually stripped down naked, walked out in the middle of the main room of Sound City, and did Left Behind in 2 takes. I mean, cutting himself, throwing up on himself. You can actually hear him breaking shit in the vocal booth on the track, on one of the tracks on Iowa.
I mean, at that point, that just tells you that that's blood, sweat, and tears. There's no other way to explain that.
I mean, Iowa is such a groundbreaking record. I mean, it is definitely one of my all-time favorite albums. I mean, it is.
It's got to be one of the heaviest things I've ever listened to.
Yeah,
for myself.
It is so heavy. From just the music itself is heavy, but I mean, the lyrics, the way they're vocalized. I mean,
just how it builds.
All the layers.
It just builds and builds and builds, and it's just like a cannon that just explodes.
It just crushes you.
Yeah,
it is amazing.
Blown away.
I mean, Left Behind was their first single off of that album, and the video for it is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to throw that up here and just show a little clip of it. But they got him out in the field. There's goats, there's rain and hail, there's an abandoned house with a kid, getting away from his bullies and stuff. It's crazy. His kid's chopping up meat with a meat cleaver. It's just all kinds of craziness. But they mainly got their main radio push, and was kind of their main breakout point when they started pushing. What was the name of it? I blanked out.
What did you blank out for?
I don't know. I have these moments where I have it right on the tip of my tongue, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, I can't believe I just forgot this. It's my plague. I don't know why.
Well, that was part of too with that was on Resident Evil.
Resident Evil, yeah.
So they you know, the Ozfest, the you know, just everyone getting involved, the word of mouth, and then you have the Ozfest tours, then you're at the movies. I mean, it's just their brand is just building and building and building, and it's like now it's a force to be reckoned with. And now, since people see what's out there, they see and they hear what's going on, and then it's just, and then it spread like a wildfire. I mean, everyone, you know, again, our age groups based on when we were listening to this, you know, we were in high school at this point, but a lot of kids our age totally felt with what was going on in the message. And as I'm reading through the lyrics of these songs, I mean, yeah, I totally see it. And it will be prevalent forever. I mean, it is completely current as now as it ever has been.
No, definitely. You know, and after they had their little spot with the Resident Evil soundtrack, they were also on the movie called Rollerball.
Yep.
They were playing in the back of the crowd kind of thing. And they were performing to 10 people, and they were just going balls to the wall. You know,
10 people.
They were playing their song I Am Hated. And you know, that the movie might have bombed, but Slipknot definitely got out there, you know. But we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back.
Listen! Fans of fucking Italy, motherfuckers. Fans of fucking Italy. It's the first time we fucking ever played here. And you can hear what the fuck is going on. You know what they fucking want. You know what they fucking need. Let's go out there, and let's give them the fucking nod, motherfucker. 1, 2, 3.
All right, we are back. Going right into it, you know, the band had a lot of success with the release and the tense promotion of Iowa, and they ended up selling out multiple large arenas in this tour that they put out for it.
That's what you want.
Indeed. Iowa actually peaked at number 3 on the Billboard and number 1 in the UK.
And rightfully so.
Right. And, you know, the big hits from that album are Left Behind, My Plague, the Heretic Anthem, and of course you can't leave out, you know, the real banger opening of it, People Equal Shit. Ooh, get into that later.
Yeah, anyway. Digest that one.
So, you know, they end up going on this hiatus after the touring because during this time there is some intense separation amongst the band members. You know, like I mentioned earlier, being shoved into a tube with 9 members plus crew, you know, you're bound to have some issues, you know. I mean,
like all families do, Ron.
Right. I mean, not only that, I mean, there's 9 guys, you know, and, you know,
a lot of testosterone.
Ironically enough, you know, Slipknot's all about, like, you know, I guess that real kind of sense in high school, we've got all these cliques and stuff, you know, and all the outsiders of that, you know, that's really Slipknot's main, you know, draw back in that day, you know. Ironically enough, you know, during this time, the band's forming their own cliques. You know, you've got guys that are hanging out with each other more so than others. And, you know, in the midst of this, you know, everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And, you know, Paul Gray, you know, he's the one member of the band that really doesn't have a problem with anybody and is getting really worried.
He's just cool, chill, calm, relaxed.
Yeah. He's getting really worried that, you know, the band is going to fall apart during this time.
Right, because they almost did after the first album.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because...
Like every album, it's just like, they just kept getting bigger, and it's just more pressure. Right. More this, more that, and
there's more of this pool
almost
from
like
every
this
side.
Is too much.
You know, and you got all these people, all the yes men in the music industry constantly trying to pull them apart, you know. Everybody's got this little person, you know, talking in their ear all the time, you're the best. What are you doing with these guys? You know, you could do so much better by yourself. You know, it's a drag that has to happen. But so the band is on their hiatus. During this hiatus time, they actually release their second DVD, which is a live performance in the UK. It was called Disaster Pieces.
Mm-hmm.
This was what really grabbed me by the balls and made me a Slipknot fan for the rest of my life. You know, learning and playing that first album, you know, that was very instrumental in my musician road, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing them performing live in that manner, I mean, it's professionally done. The show is amazing. This DVD went double platinum. It really
it's exciting to go
showcases the band.
platinum, but when you go double platinum,
But I mean, I really can't sing the praises of this DVD anymore. If you have not seen it, you must make it a point to see this. Okay, but so they go on this hiatus, and during this time, a lot of side projects are started and reformed. I know Taylor and Root end up reforming Stone Sour.
Mm-hmm.
They're kicking that off, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They kicked it off with their single Bother for the Spider-Man soundtrack.
Such a great song.
It is a great song.
God, it's so good.
And just Stone Sour as a whole, I mean, it was a great band.
Mm-hmm.
But also Joey Jordison, he ended up starting a project called Murder Dolls with Wednesday 13 is his name as the vocalist, and Joey is actually playing guitar, which I didn't know he could play guitar.
I did not know. Nope.
But yeah,
it was interesting.
Very musical fella. And we also have Sean Crahan did a side project called To My Surprise, and as well as the DJ Sid Wilson ended up going and doing his DJ thing under the moniker of DJ Starscream. And I'll be honest, I haven't heard any of Clown's To My Surprise, which I'm going to do after this. But, you know, there was some real wonders if this band was even going to get together. You know, there's actually a quote from Joey during this time. It's hard to see through this mess, so I'm going to try and find it. Here we go. I had to turn the page. But Joey was quoted because, you know, there's a lot of doubts about the band coming back together, and he was quoted saying, "I don't have a problem with anyone in Slipknot. I've seen comments from Corey saying there are things that need to be resolved, but I have no fucking idea what he's talking about." End quote. So the band gets back together, and they end up recording Volume 3. Subliminal Verses. So they end up getting back together, and they ended up renting out a mansion in LA, which happens to turn out to be the Houdini mansion.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Yeah. Didn't Corey Taylor have quite to say about that?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, so about a 6-month recording process.
Yeah.
You know, I personally really like this album a lot. There's a lot of good songs on there. That was kind of my introduction to Slipknot.
Yeah.
Kind of through my roommate. That was like the first album I kind of heard overall. But yeah, the recording process about 6 months, and then in the course of getting everything together, things kind of went a little weird. We talked about paranormal activities in our past podcast.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of had something to go with this. Several of the band members had quoted that you know, there were potential ghost activity, spirit activity, and I believe to this day, most people, if they've asked Corey about this, he don't want to talk about it.
No, it does not.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
You know,
so just wrap that in there. Obviously, trying to be on a schedule. Your record company's like, this is your third album in your, your 7-year deal. I need this out at this time, this time, this time. And again, as far as the recording process, like we've understood the first album, there was no timetable. They took years, all the time in the world to make it right. Whereas now they got to get this done. You had Rick Rubin there, obviously successful producer, Run DMC, Red Hot Chili Peppers, the names go on and on.
Yeah, co-founder of Columbia Records, or he was part of Columbia Records, and also he co-founded Def Jam with Russell Simmons.
So definitely he's a huge name in the music industry. So
big.
I mean, what better person? Anyone would be like, yeah, we'd love to have Rick Rubin to, guide us and mentor us. But some of the band members enjoyed his company. Corey, not so much.
Was not happy.
No,
apparently, he'd show up for 45 minutes every week to produce an album.
I was there and I'm like, what the hell am I paying this shrink to sit here and babysit us for?
Right. At that point, I think a lot of it had to do with, Corey was just thinking, he was just trying to slap his name on something,
right.
Right. And he did not want their first single to be what it was, which turned out to be, was it Duality? No, it wasn't Duality. It was,
Before I Forget?
Yeah, Before I Forget.
Okay.
Corey wanted that to be the first single, and Rick Rubin did not think it was a good idea. And Rick Rubin was fucking wrong.
He's been wrong lately, so whatever.
But I mean, respect to him.
Sure,
you got to give respect where respect's
totally
due. But
I'm totally kidding. The guy is a genius.
But just on that premise of like, it just didn't sound like it was executed the way it should have been. And I'm sure it's all been worked out by now, and I'm pretty sure it has. But that was a really rough time. Corey Taylor ended up getting sober during this period because his wife and a friend of his actually talked him off of a ledge of the Hyatt in L.A. He was about to just end it all. They talked him down.
And he had bouts of, suicide at about 15. I mean...
Yeah, he had definitely a lot of trauma back in the day. I mean, guy's been homeless several times. He had a rough childhood coming up. A lot of his lyrics and stuff were from some real earthly problems that he had growing up. I mean, he's talked about some really deep, dark stuff.
And those are traumatizing events, and you don't know how people can overcome these things. And and we all struggle. We have good and bad, but what we've been able to see is he's been able to overcome those demons.
Seriously seeing what he's become now is so amazing, especially knowing all the shit he's had to go through in his life. It is crazy.
Right.
It just shows his character, how awesome that man is, and why people worship the ground he walks on.
Because there's so many people that can relate to the message of this band.
Yeah. So the band ends up putting it all together and getting Subliminal Verses out. They had quite a few pretty big songs off that album.
Mm-hmm.
You had The Blister Exist, which is one of my favorite off that albums. But the Before I Forget, Duality, Vermilion Part 1 and Part 2.
Those are really just amazing.
And completely different songs. I know they're the same vein of it.
I mean, it's just two different versions of
it's great.
Eerie, but really cool at the same time is what I kind of took from that.
Right. All right, we are back. We are going to go into our pecking order, and what that is our top 5 songs. We're going to do from first album up to volume 3, and then when we do our part 2 of the Slipknot, we are going to do from All Hope Is Gone onward. So we're going to start it out. My number 5, Disaster Piece from Iowa. This song literally has all the right elements of Slipknot in it, and I just like the way that they just organize everything, the dynamics and the groove, and just, I don't know, it just has so many great things I love about this band all in one song. I love it.
Great choice. Great choice. I got number 5. I have The Nameless of Volume 3. I mean, this just hits me in the nuts. The way this song starts out, just build a drum, and I mean, it's just like, and it just goes right into a growl. I mean, it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's a great song.
Absolutely. Yeah.
My number 4 is Purity. And this song it's kind of interesting because it wasn't technically on their first album, their self-titled album, because there was some a lawsuit actually filed against the band because I guess it's about a girl being locked in a box to keep her pure, basically. And I guess somebody they knew had some kind of story or something along the same line, so it kept them from being able to put it on their first album. But like if you go and get like the special edition now, since they have it all settled day one, obviously, but it's a bonus track now. And the first time I heard that song was off of the Disaster Pieces DVD, and man, it was such a great song. It really upset me that it wasn't on their first album. I was like, man, whoever sued them, what a dick.
That's how most people are.
Yeah, but anyways, that was my number 4.
Good choice. This is off of Iowa. I'm sure you'd be surprised with me. I never heard a title to a song like this. I mean, and then I heard it. People equal shit.
Yeah.
I mean, this was mind blowing. I think the first time I listened to the song, I listened to a live version on one of the albums I have, and it was just like, whoa. And I think a lot of people can attest day in and day out that most people do equal shit.
Yeah.
So, very fitting. Yeah.
I mean, Mick Thompson has hate tattooed in Japanese on his arm for a reason. You know, people suck sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, and I think we can all, in all seriousness, sometimes we can relate to people that we just don't really get along with, and
right,
that's just what it is.
All right, my number 3 is Surfacing off of their self-titled album. They like to close this song out on their shows most of the time. I don't know if they do anymore, but it was everybody's new national anthem. You know, just screaming at the top of your lungs, fuck it all, fuck this world, fuck everything that you stand for. Don't belong, don't exist, don't give a shit.
And that's how we feel.
Don't ever judge me.
We all have days like that, especially now. I mean, you know.
Especially me being, you know, an angsty teen, pissed off at all the things that I couldn't understand or couldn't control. You know, I was blasting this in my car. What do you got at number 3?
I'm going right toe to toe with you there, buddy. I'm going self-titled too.
Yeah.
Wait and Bleed.
Great song.
Roommate, my brother's roommate. He used to blare this all the time. Probably said that before. And that song is amazing. The way it builds up, and then the scratching. I mean, that was like the first time I'm listening to, you know, a heavy metal band with scratching.
Right, especially this kind of music. It's definitely out of left field.
And I was like, what the hell? And then I'm like, I listened to it a couple times. I'm like, this really works, and this is so cool.
Right.
Literally. But that was like probably one of the very few songs I heard in college, and I'm just like, this song is just awesome.
I'm pretty sure that Wait and Bleed, you know, that was the cherry popping moments for most Slipknot listeners. You know, that was their first song that they heard, and it's catchy.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know that the higher ups in the music industry, you know, the record label, and, you know, when I was getting together, you know, we want 11 more Wait and Bleeds. And that's when the band threw their middle fingers up and was like, no, we're going to give you the most heaviest shit we can think of. You know, fuck you. Fuck you're wanting more of this. You know, we're going to do what we're going to do.
No more Wait and Bleeds, Paul.
Yeah.
So my fault.
You get one.
Damn soul out. Yeah. Yeah. So what's your number 2, Ron?
My number 2 is also one you've mentioned. People Equal Shit. I love this song. It may be up by now, or it might be coming up soon, but I'm actually going to be doing a cover of this song because I just love every aspect of it. And it was just It's one of those songs as a musician, I just wanted to dive in and feel every aspect of the song. So, you know, I didn't learn how to play any songs of Slipknot on the guitar until recently. Mind-boggling to me, why not? But for some reason, I always just did drums on them.
Really?
Yeah.
That. Okay.
But yeah, I just love it. Very angsty teen, so I was really mad about all kinds of things, and this was definitely something I'd blast, you know, just in the car, in my headphones at home when I was pissed off at my parents.
Boy, can we all relate to that
Right.
in some way, shape, or form? Yeah.
We got it, number 2.
Another volume 3. Before I forget. And I personally really enjoyed this one because I love that guitar riff at the beginning and the drums, and it just builds and builds and builds. I mean, I know it's more of a, it's not as hard as some of their other songs per se, but I think that was a good formula for the band. But yeah, just the beginning riff, I just repeat.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, I get it. I get it. Totally. And I'm not completely surprised by this. I know a lot of people will be, but I don't have a single Volume 3 song on my top 5. And it's not for lack of awesome songs or anything. It's just a lot of mine come from Iowa.
Right.
Iowa is my shit. But my number 1 is Left Behind off of Iowa. This is my favorite Slipknot song. I can't really, you know, a lot of these favorites of mine that I'll have, I mean, it's hard to put into words of why. It just clicks with me.
Sure.
On every level. You know,
another incredible guitar opening riff. It's just,
oh yes, it is just the guitar parts cut. I mean, you have to have that cutting sound of guitar to get in the mix of all the percussion, the samples, the DJ, you know, part of it, you know, Corey's vocals, the fucking just blasting of Joey Jordanson behind the actual set, you know. But I just thought this song was really great because the Left Behind aspect of the song is actually Corey Taylor's it's kind of like his afterthoughts of when he was homeless. You know, there was a time when he was, you know, living under a bridge actually, and he befriended a lot of people that were in that similar certain situation. And, you know, it's kind of his thing of like, he's never going to see these people again now.
Right.
You know, so it's like they got left behind, you know. I don't know. It just struck a chord with me.
Yeah, I mean, that could even be almost like, you know, an analogy or, you know, for we all can feel like we're left behind.
Right.
You know, I can see where the message is for certain with that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love it, though. What you got, number 1?
I know you love it. Another volume 3, Ron. Duality. This song, I go berserk over.
Right.
I go berserk over. I hear the beginning, I push my fingers into and then it's just like, I want to scream.
Right.
I just want to scream. Yeah. Through different periods.
You know, a lot of their art, you know, Sean's responsible for all the art direction of the band. And he made it a point, you know, every mask for every album cycle expresses how that band member's feeling, you know.
Yep.
Obviously, especially with his mask in particular, how greatly it changes. And, you know, he has in-depth explanation for these changes. I think we'll get more into that in our second part, though. But,
yeah, we got more to go over.
There's a lot more
better
to go.
now. Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, though, we're going to have to talk about some pretty heavy stuff. You know, part 2, we'll talk about the unfortunate loss of Paul Gray. You know, he was really the glue of Slipknot, and turns out he was actually a main contributor to the songwriting. You know, and they had overcome that hump when they made their next album. But we'll get more into that next time. But I think we can safely take these masks off for our outro.
I'm all right for it, but you want to take them off?
Yeah, I'll take them off.
Okay.
Whew.
How you feeling? See, it's
Feeling
not too
pretty
bad.
good.
Not too bad.
It wasn't bad at all.
No, not at all.
I understand, though. I do. The camera stopped again. Just turn it back on. We'll figure it out. Paul's got a pure camera on him. Talk something, Paul.
Hi. Hi there.
Hi, my name is Paul.
Camera
I like
one.
long walks on the beach.
Camera 2. Camera 1. Camera 2.
But yeah. In my back. There I am. All right, we'll make this short and sweet so won't get cut off anymore. But I really enjoyed being able to kind of, mull over, stuff that we really have an interest in.
For sure.
I felt really nice to talk about something like this. I've never had the opportunity to go in depth, even like Metallica or our favorite movies and stuff. But we'll do that. We'll keep on moving forward with that, and
That's all we do.
So we got our website up. It's thunderrooster.com. Check it out. Also, we have an Instagram. It's at Thunder Rooster Podcast. Head on over there. Follow us if you'd like. Subscribe. Like we mentioned before, trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Or if you want, go to our episode number 4, the Mansfield Reformatory. Make sure that like gets hit on that video.
So I can get scared shitless again.
It's either 1,000 YouTube subscribers or 1,000 likes on that video, and I will take Paul back to the Mansfield Reformatory so we can relive his nightmare. But in all seriousness, if you're still listening or watching, thank
Thanks
you
for
so
tuning in.
much.
Yeah.
And, we'll keep them coming as long as you keep paying attention.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, you guys have
Thanks
a good rest of
again.
your week, and keep rocking.
See ya.
Later.
Great. I'm sorry. Fuck Ron.
Yeah, fuck Ron.
Fuck Ron.
Fuck Ron.
Fuck Ron.
Fuck Ron.
Fuck Ron. Got
Fuck
me?
Ron.
Okay. Especially if you come across Ron. Fuck Ron.
Maggots. The maggots great again. I should probably move this up closer to my face.
Oh, fuck.
Or why don't you just... You should have done the intro in this. Like,
We can redo it.
so that you don't have to wear the masks the whole time.
No, we have to.
No, we need to suffer.
Alright.
I need to feel like what they felt.
I wonder how bad it would be if I took the screen off the eyes.
It's up to you. Literally, I'll start going, I push my fingers into my...
I'm pushing my fingers into my eyes so I could see this.
The cameras are recording.
Ah, fuck.
Oh, son of a bee.
Alright.
It's okay, you got some good outtakes.
Oh, I'm...
I know.
busted this